Hi, my name is Will. I'll be talking about our work today on strategies for reuse and sharing among data scientists and software teams. So, the practice of data science is this highly iterative, exploratory work to iterate on models and analyses. And really, the tool of choice here has become computational notebooks. So, one is shown in the bottom right, where I can write code and see the outputs immediately below. However, these notebooks have some issues where they might lead to messy and non reproducible code. They might lead to bad coding practices because of the unexpected execution order and lack of modular code. And research has shown that their users tend to think less about the future use of their code. And all of these issues compound to make the process of reusing past analyses different in data science than traditional software reuse in traditional software engineering. And reuse in software engineering is really the standard. Modular, reusable code has been the staple of effective software engineering for decades at this point. There's a variety of rich online repositories that help facilitate this reuse and sharing. Prior research has shown that proper reuse leads to fewer bugs and higher developer productivity, and a variety of principles like don't repeat yourself are really baked into the ethos of software engineering. So that brings us to our core research question today of how does this exploratory practice of data science fit with the fundamental task of finding, reusing, and sharing past analysis work? So to answer this question, we did a two-part study. The first were interviews with 17 different participants at Microsoft. These were data scientists or equivalent job titles. And we followed this up with a survey with 132 respondents to really try to see how broad the themes that we identified were. And this led us to three main areas of themes. The first were some comments on data science workflows, followed by 5 strategies that we identified for use and sharing, and lastly, some influencers on why people are sharing. And I'm really going to focus on the latter two of these themes in this talk, in this short talk. So these 5 strategies for use and sharing. So we've organized these from those that we think take the least effort to the most effort. So the first 2 are just personal strategies when I'm trying to reuse my own code and structure my own reuse to find past analyses that are useful. And the latter 3 are sharing among a team. And so for this short talk, I'm really going to focus on the last 2 strategies because I think some of the themes from the earlier ones really come up here as well. So starting with team shared template notebooks, what these are cleaned, generalized notebooks for a task that have been shared to a central store. These might be template notebooks with to-dos at the top that I download for a specific task, like model training, or I might be using notebooks as functions and libraries. So what this looks like is I might have a computational notebook on the left, and I call the one on the right like a traditional Python function, which is an unconventional way of using a computational notebook. And so this is an example of data scientists adapting an experiment-based tool to support a more traditional form of function calls and reuse. So this reuse can happen on the platform where work is done, such as in the notebooks, and it doesn't require them to switch tools or switch how they're doing their analysis right now. And so this is important because it meets people where they work. And it also easily supports tweaking existing code. As one of our participants said, they use template notebooks when the code requires customization when applied to different scenarios. Of course, the drawback here is that it can be hard to maintain updates across so many notebook forks and tweaks. And so this is slightly different than a more traditional form of reuse like a library, where you get all the benefits of modularizing code like easy updates, versioning. However, some people, when doing data science, still prefer the easy customization and debugging afforded by template notebooks. And so this brings us to a key takeaway here that the nature of data science work doesn't always lend itself to traditional libraries for analysis code. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why in terms of our influences on reuse and sharing. So in terms of both the reason that data scientists do and do not reuse code, it has to do with time savings or the time investment required to actually adapt that code. And so if a data science can see that they're going to save time by using past code, they'll do it. However, if it takes too much time investment to adapt this past code, it'll be less likely. So reuse is more likely when code is clean and well documented, when there's a small number of edits required, or it's code that would be hard to write on their own. And of course, team culture must incentivize this time investment. As one of our data scientists said, sharing code in data science is often not rewarded at the level needed to offset the investment necessary to do it well. So this really points to a core tension where the culture of the team must really encourage people to invest this time. Lastly, I'm going to talk about some brief implications of this study for future work and future tools. So one key takeaway here is that the outcome of data science is not the analysis code. It says it's the slide decks, the reports, and the models that are produced from this analysis. So future tools might try to explore how we can explore a tighter coupling between this presentation environment, such as the slides on the left, and the notebook and coding environment on the right. Next is that customization is absolutely essential for use. Data science code can rarely be used out of the box and it needs to be tweaked. So if I have a template notebook on the left, I want to adapt it in 3 different ways for the 3 different analyses. And this is part of the reason that template notebooks are so powerful, is because they support this tweaking and customization. And lastly, a lack of tool interoperability can limit reuse. So if I have analyses in Python, SQL, and R, it can be difficult to reuse parts of these analyses in another environment. There's some efforts towards this, like Apache Arrow for a common data exchange format, but I think more effort could be put in the tooling area. This has been Strategies for Use and Sharing. Thank you so much. I encourage you to go to the URL or look at that QR code if you're interested in the 20-minute talk or the full paper.